Hey, quick warning before you watch this video. This video hasn't been edited because editing takes a really long time and my girlfriend does it for free and doesn't have all of the time in the world to do it. So sometimes it doesn't get done. In the past, we just skipped those days, but I'd rather just put up a video. So that's what this is. Have fun with it. Sorry if I say something especially stupid. You'll just have to live with it. Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today I want to talk to you about one of the most unsettlingly weird manga reading experiences I've had. And not because the contents of the manga are super bizarre and out there, but just because the construction of it baffles me. And at every turn I get more and more confused about what the heck this manga is supposed to be. So, for about the last year or so now, I've been reading through manga at an ever increasing rate. Usually I just read for an hour or two before I go to bed at night, but sometimes I get really sucked in and I spend all my time on it. And during that time, I've been able to completely read through a couple of dozen different stories, totaling well over 20,000 chapters. Now, obviously, going at that rate, I'm constantly running out of new stuff to read and need to find more. It's gotten to the point where I don't even look at a manga if it has less than 200 chapters because it just wouldn't last long enough. So one of the main criteria I use to find new manga is 1. Have I heard of it? And 2. Is it long AF? Which of course is how I found Samurai Deeper Kyo, which is a little under 400 chapters long. And that may sound like a lot to some people, but when you've read all 1,300 chapters of Hajime no Ippo, and all 1,300 chapters of Marshall Peak, and all 1,000 chapters of One Piece, and so many others, it just feels a brisk little read. So I pick up this manga, and as of making this video, I actually haven't finished it because I can't decide whether I like it or not, and I keep putting it down for a while and then deciding to give it another chance. But it's so fucking weird. Okay, when you first start reading the manga, it presents itself sort of similar to Rurouni Kenshin. It's a period piece story set a few years after Sekigahara, and it's about samurai and bounty hunting and people adapting to this new world and all yada yada yada. But then there's some supernatural shit. You quickly realize that the titular Kyo is somehow a demon character who's sealed within someone else's body. The guy he's sealed inside of is called Kiyoshiro, so that definitely doesn't get confusing at all. And in the earlier parts of the story, he's sealed by means of basically this sword that the Kiyoshiro carries around. So whenever shit gets dangerous and he needs to pull out his sword, the dark side wakes up, sort of a Jekyll and Hyde situation. And Kiyoshiro himself gives off a lot of vibes like someone. And Kiyoshiro himself gives off vibes that are kind of similar to what you might get from Vash the Stampede. It's not quite to the same extent, but he's one of those characters who clearly has the power to do basically anything, but chooses to be a pacifist and dodge and stuff, even though it's a battle manga and it's all about the battles. And so we go along under this paradigm for a little while, and everything seems fine. There's a bit of mystery as to who Kyo originally was and how he got sealed in Kiyoshiro, but for the most part, it's meh. You can just let it be a happy-go-lucky sort of villain of the week manga. The thing is, however, that the manga itself isn't satisfied with that conclusion. It doesn't want to just be a happy-go-lucky villain of the week story with some weird undertones. And so as the story goes on, we get introduced to more and more just bizarre, out of place nonsense. Some of it is just meant to be like references to the period, like there are ninjas and samurai and whatever, sure. But then we get introduced to this one character who's based on a family no one's ever heard of, and for some reason he really, really wants to kill Tokugawa, which obviously doesn't work because Tokugawa. But then shortly after they bring this up, they introduce that, oh no, Tokugawa isn't actually Tokugawa. Hanzo Hattori is Tokugawa. Why? Why? For what possible reason is Hanzo Hattori Tokugawa? Why? Alright, so for anyone who doesn't know your Japanese history, Hanzo Hattori was a famous ninja, and Tokugawa was the emperor of Japan. I mean, not really the emperor, he was the shogunate, the emperor still existed, but whatever. He had more control and power over the country than the emperor did, by a lot. So this is basically like if the head of the CIA was actually the president of the United States, but just pretended not to be, and just pretended to be the head of the CIA for literally no fucking reason, and just let some random dude be the public president instead. Like, what kind of nonsense? And, like, Hanzo wasn't just like the guy who was in charge of the ninjas, he went on missions. The most famous thing about Hanzo is that he sat inside someone's fucking toilet for 10 hours until the guy came to take a shit and then stabbed him through the toilet. Like, the king wouldn't be doing that shit. It's ridiculous. Sorry if you hear any background noise. The dog has decided this is the best time to start chewing on his toy. Anyway, putting aside the completely unnecessary historical revisionism, they also try to play him up as like this huge combatant that's like super strong sword man. Woo. As if he's going to become an antagonist sooner or later, which is just weird. Then right after that, there's this weird arc where they have to go to a demon forest to get Demon Boy's body back. Oh, I also should have mentioned that right before the arc where they introduced Tokugawa, they just took away the whole Jekyll and Hyde dynamic and just made Kyo be the main character. And we don't get any dialogue or anything from Kiyoshiro for dozens of chapters because reasons I don't know why. Like, you start with that character, you introduce him, you have a couple dozen chapters where he's like the main character, and then you just toss him aside and focus on his dark alter ego for and make that the main character, and it's so weird. Why? Just why? Now, you could argue that this move makes sense because of the manga's name, like it's named after Kyo, but like they both have the word Kyo in their names, and that's the point of them being Jekyll and Hyde, I thought, but I don't know. But anyway, for whatever reason, they decide that Kyo needs to be the main character and Kiyoshiro needs to just not exist. I don't know. I mean, in retrospect, it might be a really good decision because Kiyoshiro was kind of the pervert character, and I kind of hate that, but whatever. But in any case, that's what they decided to do with the story, so whatever. They move on to the forest, and at first, the forest is a pretty basic arc, The hero and his crew that he's gathered over the last couple of arcs have to, like, band together and fight the villain and their crew in a bunch of consecutive one-on-one fights throughout this ever-changing environment, blah blah blah. It's been done a billion times. It's a tried and true method. It's not bad, but it's fairly predictable. BTW, for anyone who saw my review of Demon Slayer and thought I was being unfair on it, they have this exact same arc toward the beginning when the characters go into the spider forest, and it's just as impressive as unimpressive now 20 years later as it was then. So yeah, that's why I said Demon Slayers was uninspired and bland and a copycat of a bunch of older, better manga without adding anything new to the formula except maybe ripping off Hamon. But that only counts because JoJo abandoned Hamon for literally no reason. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Point is, it's a fairly standard fight in a forest arc. Except when you get to the end of the arc. Because at the end of the arc, they reveal that the big bad guy who leads the organization of big bad guys, and up until now has been referred to only as that man, but everyone uses the term that man as if everyone else should know exactly who they're talking about, so it's weird that it's a big reveal who he is, but whatever. Anyway, turns out it's Oda Nobunaga because. Fucking what? Why? I mean, putting aside the absolute dumbassery of bringing Oda Nobunaga back to life after Sekigahara, like, why is he a villain? Like, sure, he was a general and, like, he killed people and shit, but, like, it was war season and he won the war. Oh well. I don't see why his character is any more villainous than literally everyone else who was fighting in that war. And also, for some reason, he's been reincarnated into a young body so that he can be a really strong sword fighter for Kyo to fight against, which is just so dumb on so many levels. Like I don't doubt that Nobunaga had the ability to participate in combat because generals participated in combat back then, but like clearly that's not what made him an intimidating and famous figure. Like the reason Nobunaga went down in history is because he conquered Japan, and also because of some like horrible things that he did in the process, but like war, everyone was doing horrible things. It was a civil war. I mean, like if you look into this period of history in Japan, you'll hear a lot about like how Nobunaga like burned down the temple of the Iga clan while they were in it. But like he's probably not the only person who burned people alive in that war, let's be honest. But anyway, at this point in history, he should have been dead for like more than a decade. So using this weird sci-fi body transfer bullshit to bring him back to life just so he can be the antagonist in this one arc where they fight real hard is so fucking weird. Like, why? And then while all this is happening, they start introducing shit for the next couple of arcs, and they're just like, oh, there's this secret ancient clan, like some Illuminati bullshit that just like controls the country behind the scenes, and they've been like genetically engineering themselves for thousands of years, and they've got like superpowers that are unique to each individual, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this? Where is this coming from? Why is this here? This is not what I signed up for. And then they go meet like Kyo's master, Muramasa, the swordsmith. And for anyone who's confused about the incredulity in my voice, it's because what the fuck? Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Muramasa is a famous swordsmith in Japanese history, but he's also kind of like fictionalized, and I'm not entirely sure he was a real swordsmith. It's one of those like Robin Hood situations. And also, the timeline, at least as far as I understand it, is all over the place for him. But I do not think he's supposed to be alive 5 years after Sekigahara. Now, I could be wrong about that, but in any case, it's fucking weird for him to show up here and just be like casually introduced as someone's mentor. And also, he can read minds for some reason. Like, there's literally no reason for that and no explanation for that, and it doesn't like help the world in any way. It's just a thing he can do because whatever. Okay, actually, I just did some research, and apparently the earliest blade marked with Muramasa's signature is dated to 1501, which is 100 years before Sekigahara. Although some people think that some of the swords may be much older than that, even though they're not dated. Also, in folklore, Muramasa is noted as having studied directly under Masamune, who died in the 1300s. So yeah, him being here in this story makes absolutely no goddamn sense. Also, if you know anything about Muramasa, you probably have like this vague idea of a cursed sword because that's a popular thing in a lot of Japanese fiction. Basically, a bunch of Tokugawa's soldiers used these swords, and whenever something bad happened with one of their swords, they would chalk it up to the curse, which is dumb, but whatever. The curse element doesn't seem to play a part in this story, but I haven't finished it yet, so maybe. In any case, it's weird for there to be a curse. It's weird for Muramasa to be alive at this point in history. And it's weird for him to read minds and be Kyo's teacher for no fucking reason. It's so weird. And it's just like the direct opposite of Rurouni Kenshin, right? Like, Kenshin is a story that's like very much set in a specific time period, but it uses that to its advantage and like creates as many weird scenarios as possible within the framework of that time period. But then this manga is just like, fuck it, let's throw in magic and apparently time travel or eternal life or something. I don't like, how the fuck is he alive? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous on many, many levels. I do not understand it. So yeah, that's basically my experience of reading through Samurai Deeper Kyo. It's all over the fucking place, and there's still a lot of time left for it to get even more out of whack, and I don't know if I want to experience the rest of the out of whack. Quite frankly, one of the only reasons I've stuck with the story thus far is because it's by the guy who did Codebreaker, and I really liked Codebreaker, so I figured, maybe this is good too, but like it doesn't seem like it yet. So yeah, if you have ever seen this manga and wondered whether or not it's worth your time, um I mean, if you're into brain fucks and confusing like paradox inducing time shenanigans and weird ass inclusions of historical Japanese characters, then yeah, sure. It's actually really funny because about the only historical Japanese character that they haven't included is the only one that would make sense, which of course is Musashi. Like, this story is set 5 years after Sekigahara, and it's about samurai who fight with swords. This is the perfect place for him to show up as a major, hurdle for the characters. Although I think maybe that might not happen just because, like, Musashi is unbeatable and therefore not someone you can place as an antagonist, but no. Yeah, anyway, it's a real weird trip, and I'm not sure if I want to keep going down it, but I probably will. I don't know. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Alright, thank you guys for watching that video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that dumb YouTube stuff. Follow me on all my other social media stuff. I got Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and I have a Patreon if and only if you have money to burn. And if you do have money to burn, maybe consider donating to an actual charity instead. There are always a few linked in my description, just in case. I mean, I do appreciate it, but there's probably people who can use it more than me. Me and my girlfriend play video games she's never played before on twitch.tv/thegolden every Saturday, sometime after 6 p.m. US Mountain Time. And also, I sometimes use that channel to do challenge runs and game creation tutorials. So if you're into any of that, please check that out. Also, if you check out our streams and you like the performance that my girlfriend puts on, she streams by herself on her own channel called Awesome Possum Pie. And be sure to leave positive comments down below for my girlfriend who volunteered to edit my videos for free because she's awesome. And yeah, thanks so much for all of your support. And thanks again for watching.